Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm your host, Jacky Blisson. It's the run-up to the holidays, and this week, with New Year's coming up, it's Champagne. Champagne hails from the region of the same name, northeast in France, about 140 kilometers from Paris. It is traditional method sparkling wine, comes in white and rosé. It is generally a blend made up of 2 or 3 of the region's main grapes, which are Pinot Noir, Meunier, which is also sometimes called Pinot Meunier, and Chardonnay. According to the Comité Champagne, the Pinot Noir in the blend brings body and structure, the Meunier brings a supple, rounded, fruity nature, and the Chardonnay brings finesse and ageability. In last week's sparkling wine video, we covered how traditional method sparkling wines are rendered bubbly in the bottle, and we looked at lees aging and its effect on style. For those of you who didn't catch it, I'll link that up here. What we didn't discuss is what happens when the winemaker has decided that the lees aging period is finished. At this stage, they need to remove the lees sediment from the bottle, or else the wines would be cloudy. This is quite a complex process, happens over time, but the final stage is called dégorgement, disgorging. They open the bottle rapidly, the lees are expelled, and then they've got to fill up that space, and they top up the bottles at this juncture with a mixture of wine and sugar called a liqueur d'expédition. This addition of sugar is called dosage, and it determines the sweetness level of the champagne. So why would you want champagne to be sweetened? Well, champagne is generally very, very acidic. I'm talking strip the enamel off your teeth acidic. So the sugar will just temper that acidity and make it more harmonious on the palate, more enjoyable to drink. Most champagnes are a Brut dosage. They generally have about 6 to 12 grams per liter of sugar, but because of that high acid, they generally feel quite dry on the palate. Bone-dry versions with no added sugar do exist. They're called Zéro dosage or Brut nature. I tend to find them a little bit austere to high acid for my palate, unless they come from top vintages or top vineyards where the grapes have really fully ripened. They're a little less racy in acid, they're fuller bodied, so you don't need that hint of sweetness so much. There are 2 major styles of champagne, non-vintage and vintage. Non-vintage is the most common style of champagne. It simply means that wines from several different vintages are being blended together. So each vintage, a percentage of the wine is held back in tanker and barrel to be used at a later date as reserve wine. So the amount of reserve wine that goes into a blend, the number of different vintages, and so forth, these are all the jealously guarded secret of each champagne house, which gives them their signature style. Using reserve wines allows champagne producers to make a consistent style of wine from one vintage to the next. Non-vintage wines must be aged on their lees for a minimum of 15 months, but many houses will age for 2 to 3 years. Vintage wines are from one specific harvest and are generally only made in the very best growing season, sometimes only about 3 times in a decade. So they age on their lees for a minimum of 3 years, often far longer, and you'll see that the vintage is written right on the label. On the labels of certain top champagnes, you might see the word Premier Cru or Grand Cru followed by the name of a vineyard. Just like in Burgundy, Champagne's vineyards have been plotted out over time, with certain being considered superior. So what makes Champagne so special? Well, first of all, its incomparable taste. Fine champagne is really harmonious and balanced on the palate. It does have really racy acidity from its cool northern climate, but that's tempered by just a beautifully concentrated mid-palate, that creamy layered texture depending on the lees aging, a taut structure, and a long finish. During the First World War, Winston Churchill famously rallied his troops by saying, "Remember, gentlemen, it's not just France we're fighting for, it's Champagne." Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button, share widely, consider subscribing if you'd like to follow my weekly wine education series. Until next time, santé!